like we are live. I am checking my phone over here to make sure that we are live over here, which it still says starting soon. So let's see. Oh, here we go. We are live.
In a real conversation with you, Elayna.
Yes, I'm so excited. We've already got 2 people jumped in. The tech is finally figured out. To all those of you who have been here from the beginning, it is finally figured out. So welcome, and I'm here with Sebastian. Oh, and we are perfectly on time. So I am just going to kick us straight into this conversation. And if you are new here, if you have not seen the ultimate question yet, welcome. This is the 5th episode of a live series that combines snail mail with live video to create daringly real conversation. And Sebastian has an envelope with him right now. Can we see that envelope? Oh, yes, it was the pink one.
It's basically part of 2 envelopes. It was an envelope in the envelope.
Yeah, and there's a secret envelope too. Yeah. So Sebastian has no idea what the question is, and that creates this daringly real conversation that we're about to jump into. We have no idea what's going to go on, and it's from that realness that I believe we catalyze the most unexpected things that we just can't imagine right now. So that's what the ultimate question is all about. And this is the first time that the ultimate question has not traveled over a body of water, because Sebastian is with me here in Germany. Sebastian, where exactly are you?
I'm in Darmstadt. So basically, I'm sitting in Darmstadt. This is near Frankfurt.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. I wrote your address, but I couldn't, my German geography is not great. So the other thing about Sebastian's question is that it taught me something absolutely beautiful. Most of the time, what has happened is I've gotten on a call with someone, I invite them to the ultimate question, and I wait for that question to emerge. I write it down and I send it to them. But this was different because Sebastian and I had a conversation. I knew that I just needed to wait. And then all of a sudden, his question came knocking at my door. I knew it was for him. And it was then that I invited him in. So I'm learning that the ultimate question is all about actually following the question itself, rather than trying to plan all of this out, which is an interesting process to sit in. But without further ado, I'm going to intro myself with 2 things I want you to know about me. All the business stuff you can check out on LinkedIn. We've got our profiles here. Click over there. But for right now, I just want you to know that about me, I have lived outside of the US for most of my adult life, India, Japan. Now I'm in Berlin, Germany. And I'm also an artist. I use my artist curiosity to create spaces like this. I have a business. I'm not a working artist per se, but I live in the world with an artist curiosity. So that is where I am at. Sebastian, I would love to hear from you. Who are you? What do we need to know about you?
First thing, thank you for inviting me, for having me in this space. There's so much, people who know me know that I can start talking and we do not end until the night is coming and we all fall asleep. And also, like you said, you can read about my business and about some of my developments in the LinkedIn, and I will provide you with the links afterwards. But there's probably one thing that connects us. We are both into spaces, and that's how we met, and that's why I felt this space was so magic with you. And when you said you sent me the question, and then I was starting to wait for the question. This is a secret question, right? Or it's not secret, it's there, but it's not available to me at that moment when you send it. And I was sitting here and I was talking to my kids and friends, and I said, like, actually, usually I'm the one trying to find the questions, and now she's sending me a question which she has found for me, and I don't know it. Wow, that reminded me of situations where I actually wanted to run. And so there was an empty space, which I tried to fill with something in order not to think about opening that question and knowing what it was. And I fell into silence and receiving and exploring. So what did it do to myself? That's what I do to my workshop participants, to my coaches. I'm opening the space and I'm waiting for things to come, and now I'm into that space. Ultimately, finding myself, seeing myself, and not running away. So the mic is still on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's, this space is unlike any that I've experienced before, and the one thing I wanna say before we dive into your question is I invite all of us into this question, and you'll see here in a minute that you might not be able to ask this exact question to yourself, but get creative with it. You'll know what I mean in a second. And also, this isn't just about the question. This is also about the space that we're creating and the realness. So tap into that. You can leave all the questions behind, but for the audience, the community here, tap into this realness because it's from there that we emerge on the other side with things we simply can't imagine. So, without further ado, Sebastian, I would love for you to kick us off with your question.
All right. So what I do, I will open it. And I also want to invite you to, for just 20 seconds, deeply breathe in, feel into that question, and just close your eyes for one tiny little moment of time, 20 seconds. Feel what it does to you, me having that question, and maybe you also wanting to hear the question. Feeling you on the ground, on that space here. Take another deep inhale and out through the mouth. Okay, I'm ready. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not so killing as I thought. So you're not going to learn about my pet. You're also not going to learn about my feelings. What does Berlin reveal to you? And that goes deeper than you might think. Berlin, yeah. Oh, thank you for the question. I see how that came up to you. It's interesting. It's a question about a location, but for me, it opens a whole space, a whole lifetime. Berlin is, I've never been to Berlin before the age of 14, 15 maybe, so I was not born there, I was not put there. Even the reunification, which had an impact on me. My father is from Dresden, so we were kind of impacted. I was born here. But Berlin always was something for me like maybe for many of us, a symbol for something else. Arts, craziness, at least something I couldn't grab until I was there for the first time. And it went quite intense. I think it was about when I was working, I suddenly, for some time, I started having Berlin on my agenda. I was there once, was there twice. It was probably in the age of 30, in the mid-30s, when I started going to Berlin almost on a bi-weekly basis. Kind of built up my second home in Berlin. And it was easy, it was fun. Berlin in summer. Just the time I'm talking now is Berlin in summer. Whoever has been in Berlin, Berlin in summer is great. Long nights, the sun is shining, it's warm, you're sitting in the Landwehr Canal. Everything is easy, everything is chilled. You meet people and you just meet them, you talk to them. Some don't talk to you because they're somewhere else, but that's Berlin. So that's how I got to know Berlin. And then there was a moment in life, which we probably all have, where the real life kicks in terms of reminding you of who you are. In my case, it was a deep crisis. It was a very harsh breakup. Actually, it was 5 years ago, and it was in winter. So it was in winter, and it's one of the times in life where you actually don't want to leave the house, where you question everything and where everything you step out to reminds you of something you don't want to see, where you get deeper, and it was October, November, deepest, darkest times anyway in Germany. Whoever has been in Germany at that time, it's really short days, early nights, some snow, but not the white snow that makes you feeling romantic and happy. So, and then it was Berlin that came up on my agenda again in probably February. So it was my first sneak out into the world again. And I thought, like, yeah, you go to Berlin, you know Berlin, this is a safe space. And it was winter. I knew Berlin in winter, but it was winter for me and for Berlin. And when I came there, it was not the city opening up its arms and inviting me for warm, long nights at the Landwehrkanal. It was really cold. It was icy. It was snowy. And when you walk along the Paul-Linke-Ufer, you know, that's one of these channels going through Berlin.
Yep, right
And
there.
it was full of ice. It was actually, you couldn't just go there and felt held. It was
Yeah.
actually like, it actually reflected quite well my mood at that time. So, yeah. And then again, even at that time, I met my friends. I felt on the ice. I lost my hat, my head, and was freezing. And I found it again. And this finding again my head was basically this: what I relate to Berlin. And you ask me, what does Berlin reveal to you? It reveals to me that you take yourself wherever you go, right?
Yeah.
So, and Berlin has all these corners, and I mean, many cities have these corners, but Berlin has these corners, like beautiful spaces and dark corners, and ice on the street and ice on the hand, and happiness and joy. And it's like you, from your inside, reflect on the outside what there is. And so
Yeah.
Berlin, this is still in my mind. I'm actually going to Berlin next weekend. I'm taking my son, and we're probably going to meet. So
Yes.
let's see what question might rise up. So Berlin is always a place to go to find myself, lose myself and find myself again.
Yeah, wow. There's something about place for me and hearing it reflected in you and the way of the wave that you were experiencing and the seasons. Like there's so many different places to go with that. The fact that the seasons of Berlin were in perfect sync with where you were when you came each time. And what you said about wherever we go, we follow, like ourselves are within us no matter where we're at. And I think that there's a misnomer that maybe that's not going to happen. I definitely remember the first time that happened for me. It was also my first time out of the US. I studied abroad in India, and I just expected it to be this wowing experience, which it very much was on many different levels. But I remember at one point that truth dropping in of like, oh, all that stuff that I've carried with me, it's still here. I don't just get to escape that. Yeah. What is that quality of you being, or how did you put it? Your language was so nice around yourself following you when you came to Berlin that winter. What do you remember exactly what you said there?
No, I don't. What I think, I don't know if I said myself following me, because
Yeah.
that's what we think. There's actually a very nice thing. When I came to Berlin, there was I came with the ICE, high-speed train in Germany, and I came from the south. Then you pass, I don't know if it's Spandau. You pass something, and then there on the right side, there's some red houses. Don't ask me why I figure out or always find these red houses. But it felt like at these red houses, I dropped all my stuff, my mental stuff. And I went to Berlin. There was another air, there was another atmosphere. And then when I went back home, I passed these red houses again, and all the stuff came in again. And so what I think, it doesn't follow you, it is with you. Every time, it doesn't just follow you to where you go.
Yeah.
It's part of you. And in the last month or so, I often came across people, books, newspapers, whatever, reminding me that everything on the outside is a reflection of your inside, right? So, and it makes it quite interesting because it means you see on the outside what is in the inside, and probably you can only see on the outside what's in your inside. Because it could be that you don't have an eye, that your mind is not even capable of seeing more than what is inside of you. So that's why it's logic, if there's any logic, then why it makes sense, that you see Berlin in the time I described as dark and cold and snowy. Whereas I guess if we would have met in Berlin at that time, there was also the sun during the day and the snow, and the channel was full of ice. It was extremely beautiful, but I couldn't see all that because my insight was just limited to that one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't follow us. And what I said with the red houses, I thought I drop my stuff and then I pick it up again. But that's probably also a mind illusion that says, okay, now we're going to break free for 2 days. Now we're going to break free in the workshop, create and do something. And after the workshop, it stays the same. So I'm referring to my workshop, because it's also a place where people go in order to do something and enjoy the time. And with that mindset, you go in. So what it does to me in Berlin, what it reveals is also you can decide what you take and what you see and how you see things, right? I can decide if I see the sun or the dark night, which is, of course, not easy. We are humans, and our minds and our egos try to tell us, you got to see this one. You're in lack, you see this. You're in abundance, you see this. However, there's still the self. When you step a little bit back and you look at this whole noises in your head, you probably also hear yourself that says everything is here and you decide what you're going to see. So Berlin reminds me quite a lot on the story of finding myself.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about the windows right here, and it's beautiful right now, blue sky. It's not particularly warm. If you can't tell, I'm wearing long sleeves, but one thing that I notice, and this happens both in summer and in winter, is how quickly the weather outside can change. More specifically, the clouds will come in and they'll cover the sun again. And I find myself, I'm reading something or I'm writing, I'm working on something, and it's just like, oh, well, it's beautiful outside, but that can wait. And then invariably, when I'm done with whatever I was working on, there's a cloud. And I'm aware of this pattern of the idea that these other things can wait. And this isn't a reflection on like, I shouldn't do that, or I need to be better at just getting outside. It can be, but also it's curious to me where we place importance and when. Because sometimes it makes complete sense for me to be absorbed in my thoughts and my ideas, and other times it's just putting that first step towards the door and lacing up my shoes that's actually the hardest. And it's a city, so it's not like you're going outside and smelling the crisp, fresh air of the trees, or sometimes you can kind of get that. But it's a different place to step out onto the street with everything that goes on here.
It's also interesting because that is the thoughts I'm also having. So kind of, I should have gone out. Next time I'm going out.
Right.
And couldn't it be like, oh, wow, there's a cloud when I'm stepping out?
Yeah.
And couldn't it be like, oh, wow, I'm sitting here and the sun is shining? Isn't it also beautiful when the sun is shining on your desk and you can tell yourself, I'm in the middle of Berlin. I could go, but at this moment, I'm just at the right place. Like you're at the right place when the cloud is there and you don't know why the cloud is there, maybe to give you some shade before you step into the full sun. That's a story. We can tell so many stories about it.
Yeah.
It is the thing for me, about accepting the place I'm at this moment. And again, is it easy? No way, because the sun is shining here as well. And do I want to be in this place? Yes, I want to be in this place. Did I make the decision to be in a place with you? Yes. So hell yes, it's a good decision to be here, even when the sun is shining outside. So for me, that has to do with kindness to myself and accepting that what I do is what I chose and it's the right thing. And I can make a new decision.
Yeah.
However, regretting the old decision sitting at your desk and making art, probably it was when you were writing my question. And thank you, you were sitting in the sun at the desk writing my question.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of how I want to see things. And for those who know themselves, it's easier to say than to do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then again, it's good we all have each other in a place. Good to have you reminding me of what is important and what is not important to me. Not telling me what is important for you, telling me what is important for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then I think the other thing I've been feeling a lot lately with kind of the weather and just the decision of what to do in the day and how we are so how we can easily think that choosing one thing means not choosing another thing. And on one level, it means that. But when we go too far down that road of like, well, if I do this, then maybe I'm not going to be able to do that. We can get caught up in trying to weigh things that simply have no weight yet because we haven't stepped into either one of them. Yesterday was a huge day of that for me. And because part of this isn't about trying to combat that. It's not about trying to say that that's never going to happen to me again. How can I ensure that I don't have a day like yesterday again? I find that just puts more pressure on us, that we think that we should have figured out a way to cross the bridge and have more space in that day. But yeah, just really, I was very aware of my thoughts and trying to figure out. It felt like each moment I could be making a new choice, and like this movement that I'm making right now is
Overwhelming,
really,
yes.
really how I felt. I mean, it got to the point where it was at the end of the day, and I was making dinner, thinking I'm going to yoga. I'm not gonna eat very much. And then I only ate half my dinner. I was like, "There's no way I'm going to yoga. I'm way too tired." Just this constant shift. And some days we are just as fickle as the Berlin clouds and the weather.
Isn't that all about this concept of letting go?
Yeah.
And
Tell me more. Tell me more.
oh, no. No, because this is a tough one, right? Letting go, and letting go always means, for me, I fight with it because I think, I sense that letting go means letting it go in terms of never seeing it again. And letting go probably only being the fact that accepting what is and building upon what is, rather than dwelling in the past or creating a future that is not yet. So maybe making a twist to kind of this role we're playing in workshops, you and me, or in the conversations. Letting go also means letting go the not knowing what is going to come and trying to figure that out in order to let that what is going to come and see what it is and celebrate it and embrace it in a way of, oh wow, I was thinking of it. I was trying to figure out what it's going to be. I was hoping, I was despairing. And what it is, we didn't know before it came in.
Right.
So coming back to the one thing I mentioned before, that space of silence, that space of, oh, I don't know what's going to come. I don't know. I hate not to know what's going to come. I want to run, but where to run? Because I don't know where to run, because as long as I don't know what it is, I don't know where to run. So sitting still, silencing, and then start exploring. And accept yourself with the sun on the desk or with the clouds when you step outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like your definition of letting go, and it really is the only way to let things in. I find that we are acculturated to try to do this with our lives, that control the cause and effect idea that if I do this, this will happen. And we can
Mm,
find areas in which that's true, but a lot of times the most important times we don't understand what the this was to get the that until we've already completed it. It's so hard to know within the moment. Like, even right now, what we're doing right now, we're 25 minutes in and we still don't really know what this is. And since I've done this a few times, I always find that I never know what this is until after, and not right after.
mm,
It usually takes a few days, and then all of a sudden, these things start to drop for me of what this experience was about. And yet, here we are in front of people having this conversation, and there's part of me that wants to go like this. Like, "Oh my gosh, where is it? What are we doing?"
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I am not void of those thoughts, and I'm sure you're not either. And so the idea of letting go and trusting the process, and still not knowing, because it's not an instant gratification that we're going to get the answer back. Um, and so anytime we're trying to do something like letting go, releasing control, we part of that is releasing the immediate response of
mm,
what that actually meant.
mm. And this is probably also happening to all of you watching this. It might be that I remember when I was watching it for the first time with Rob, I was sitting there and like, okay, where does that go? And sometimes it even didn't make sense. Does it make sense? I tried to make sense of it. And then 2 days later, some were sitting in a park and watching the ducks. I suddenly realized, like, that does something to me. In fact, what we're talking here, and it's always like this, we're coming from different perspectives, right? So in order, when we want to reach something, cause and effect, we always tend to assume that we are all on the same page expecting the same results. And especially
Yeah.
this space is like, hey, all of you ask yourself, why did I come here? What did I want to get out of it? Am I now on track? Is this what I
Yeah.
expected? Or is that probably what I not expected? Am I disappointed? In German, there's this nice word for disappointment, means enttäuscht. That means, you figure out that what you see is not what it really is.
Hmm.
So enttäuscht, you do not follow something you assume, you realize it's something else. You're nicht getäuscht anymore. You should look it up in the dictionary because they would
Yeah, I
play
will.
with words. But yeah, what do you feel? It would be interesting. Maybe you can write it in a chat. I don't see the chat and I don't see no one. Am I supposed to see no one or?
I think there are a few people. I'm looking on my phone. We've got a few people there, watching, that is. The chat, I don't know if yours is set up differently, but it should be somewhere on the right-hand side that you should be able to bring it up. Um, and or actually, I think Dominicus might be watching, and he's German. So Domi, if you're there, type that word in, because I'm sure I will spell it wrong. Um, yeah,
That's okay.
yeah, that's fascinating. I really like the audience perspective in that, because sometimes I wonder, if I weren't doing these, would I be interested in listening in? And I'm not sure, because it's like, well, what is actually going on there? But the process of just being and reflecting around how we're showing up, what we're showing up in, um, I'm that that carries a lot of weight, not just for this space, but in everything that we're doing.
Trying to see, but
Oh, wait, yeah, we got it. Here, I'll put it up on the screen. Here's the word.
Enttäuscht, yeah. And
Yeah.
if you just make if you cut it from the end, enttäuscht.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good word. So coming back, I feel like there's probably a link here that might be interesting to explore. Coming back to the question of what does Berlin reveal to you? Is there a link between the space that we're talking about and the letting go and what Berlin has revealed to you as well?
Can you repeat that one? I was
Sorry.
distracted. Actually, let's go back to that word, because when you see it enttäuscht,
This one?
täuschen means to be deceived. I deceive you, right? And
Ah,
if I'm enttäuscht, I'm not deceived anymore. So I'm
interesting.
deceived. I think it is what it is, but then I figure out it's something else. In our common terms, enttäuschung means something bad, something negative.
Yeah.
Right? I expected my kid to be able to read, but it cannot read. So, well, in fact, it is just that I realize it cannot read. That's neither bad or good. It's just so I'm closer to the truth. So Enttäuschung means deceiving. The more I'm enttäuscht, the more I'm living in the real world.
Huh, it's like almost a double negative, right?
Yes, which makes it
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting.
So
So
repeat the question with Berlin.
well,
Sorry.
let's use it with this word and what Berlin
Ah,
reveals to you. Where is there a bridge there?
oh, yes, definitely. Probably in that case, I realize that things are moving on.
Mm,
Life is a constant death and rebirth. We constantly having new situation. We want to hold on things. And my breaking out to Berlin was figuring out that Berlin is there even if everything has changed, and even Berlin can change. And it's not giving me what I need or what I want so badly if I'm not able to receive it.
hmm.
The Enttäuschung, the deceivement was I cannot probably hold on to nothing and just accept the moment and love it. And the moment, actually, there was this interesting moment during that time when I realized it, not in the depth I'm doing now, but suddenly the sun was coming out and I was standing at this Admiralsbrücke
Yeah.
and the sun was coming out and it was like a sign from above or below or from within, whoever wants to take it from where the sign comes from. But it showed me, wow, it was cloud, sun, snow,
Hmm,
glittering white. So point
hmm.
is, this Enttäuschung was actually a great gift to realize everything is there and I just need to grab it or want to see it.
Ah, yeah. My cat is everywhere. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's interesting that that is what Berlin has revealed to you, because I would say that that is what Berlin has given me, but in a different way.
Mhm.
I find that, and I think we talked about this a little bit before when we were on the first call that we've ever had. Um, in the sense that you walk out on the streets of Berlin, and the more different you are, the more you fit in. And that was kind of, where it still is sometimes a little bit difficult for me because I don't like, I don't have blue hair, or I don't have a bunch of tattoos, and, people are wearing whatever they wanna wear, things that you couldn't even imagine them wearing, and it makes sense here. And so for me, when I go out onto the streets of Berlin, recently I was confronted with this really big question of, in Berlin, anything goes. And if
Mm.
anything goes, who do you want to be?
Oh, that's an interesting question for Berlin, because if you do not have a glimpse of what you want to be,
Yeah.
Berlin can almost kill you, at least parts of you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk about it as being the city of lost souls, um, which is interesting because in some ways I think those supposed lost souls would look at the rest of the world and say like,
You
"What
are
the hell
lost.
are you doing? Like, let's live."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I don't just mean like party attitude at all.
Mhm.
I just mean literally being here is anything goes. And so kind of coming back to what you were saying in terms of it's right there, you just have to reach out for it and be open to receiving that. It's interesting to think about your experience as being very much reaching out. And I guess that question is also of I feel like it turns inward first of like, who the hell am I? Who do I want to be? How am I showing up here? And then allowing that to be seen to the world.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
so I like how we have kind of both sides here, all connected to this idea of place and what place has a shared place has given
Yes,
us.
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
So, any,
So
any,
thinking thinking about that question again, what does Berlin reveal to you? And as we've meandered through this time together, is there anything else that's showing up or shifting or that wants to peek its head out and say something?
that gives me goosebumps. Like one of our favorite coaches always used to say, I don't know if he's here, but you will know who he is, the goosebumper. I have changed. That's what I'm figuring out at the moment.
Hmm.
Talking about this Berlin, what has it revealed to me? I was drawn to the past. And I was talking about the past, which is 5 years ago. And thinking of Berlin today is completely different.
Hmm.
I feel more calm going to Berlin right now. I remember that time, even before when I was going every week, I was so curious and tense and looking forward to and everything. And now I became calmer in that respect, and that's a self-reflection here. Maybe I got closer to my center.
Hmm.
And when we say Berlin, Berlin is a melting pot of a lot of these things we were talking about. It's basically a lot of parts of the world you can find in Berlin.
Yeah.
However, there are other parts in the world where you can find a lot of other parts of the world. So moving to Berlin is still exciting, is still beautiful. However, I'm not that lost anymore,
Hmm.
which is not a constant in my life, but it's
Yeah.
the way goes up.
Yeah. I'm curious what it will mean for you to come this weekend, and especially if we see each other and look at this question of what is it revealing in the moment, like as you're moving through the energy and the space of the city.
It's interesting. We will have my son, he's 16, and I will tell him before that he's supposed to observe me, and then he can give me a reflection on that.
Oh,
It will be
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another great thing to think about is those reflections that we have, and asking for them beforehand even. I think, like, I'm used to asking for reflections after the fact, but to prep someone before, that's a cool concept.
Especially for someone who's been with me all the time, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That will be
Yeah.
even more interesting, the question, like the hidden question, the ultimate question from him.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah. Well, as we kind of near towards a close, I never like to wrap up these conversations perfectly. Uh, so what I would ask you to do, invite you to do is there a question that has now emerged for you?
For me or for all
Yeah,
of us?
just a question that you might want to offer the space or a question that you want to ponder.
It's interesting. No. Usually there are questions, but this is sound, this is round, this is maybe a lot of questions. I feel there are a lot of loose ends right now.
Mm.
It's like when you go in one of these Berlin bars, and they have these hanging curtains, like, which one am I supposed to take? And of course, this is also a reflection from my inside to the outside. No. It's not a question, it's a curiosity of how this is going to move on, especially for the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something that just reveals itself. I cannot grab it yet. And I would be curious if someone would like to share what it does to him or her, or
Great.
to
Yeah.
you listening here. Maybe you can write that in the chat, which I cannot read, but maybe Elayna can find the question. So what is the question you want to ask? Is there
Yeah.
something you want to share? Is there something where you say, like, they need to hear this now? Elayna, Sebastian, please read this because you need to know.
Yeah, well, if anybody has something that they'd like to share, I can see the chat. So feel free to drop anything. There's two things that are coming up for me. One is the question of what will Berlin continue to reveal to you? And that's for you. But I also want to make sure that as we come to a close with this, that we expand the question for all of us, because many of you probably have never been to Berlin. So, what does all of this mean? And I would invite you to look at any place and ask yourself this question. I find that place is just such an intense teacher for us. Here we've got two things. As you were talking through this, my thoughts went to, what does home mean to me? That is like, oh wow, that is a huge question for me. And we
Actually, that's a very interesting question, Lisa. Thank you. Because when I was in Berlin at that time, I usually roamed through the bookstores and I was looking for that answer. What does Heimat mean for me? Home, what does Heimat mean? And there's an interesting book. I don't know the author, but he was working on the concept of Heimat. So is Heimat a place outside where you feel home? Is it a place inside? Is it somewhere in between? Is it the people? Is it, what does home mean to me?
Yeah.
Mm.
I've really struggled with this question, and especially now since the last time I've left the States, because I always used to have two homes. I always used to have my mom's home where all my things were, and then wherever I was in the world. And in some ways, having that home base for me meant that I could be in the world in the way that I've been in the world. But we sold my mom's house. She passed a year and a half ago, and I don't have that anymore. And so this way that I used to interact with that idea has vastly changed, in ways that, I mean, I could talk about this for a lot longer, but also in ways that I just do not have the language or awareness around at all. And even before the death of my mom, there home was such a big question because I'm always out in the world in a new culture, in a new place. So yeah, just this big question of how we are, I'm going to change the question a little bit, but like how we are bringing those experiences into us and living with those and having that be home.
And you brought it up. What is the difference between home and home base?
Yeah,
You said you have
yeah.
two bases, home
Mm-hmm.
bases. Is there a
Yeah.
difference between a home, which is where you travel and where you are, and a home base where you think you need to come back? Or why you want to come back because it gives you the feeling of the smell,
Yeah.
the sense, the touch, the warmth. Is it two
Yeah.
things? Home base, home?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely different. Um, yeah. Well, we've just blown open a whole new conversation. So maybe we're going to have to dive into this deeper because we also have how is Berlin related to love in life, which is also a big and beautiful question. I'm also
Colorful.
noticing the time. Do you want to say something real quick about Berlin and love and life?
Yeah, yeah, love is where you go, right? And as Berlin is so colorful, it's probably you can find love in Berlin probably easier than somewhere else because there's so many opportunities, different opportunities. And you
Yeah.
can resonate to much more than when you're in the middle of the forest. It's harder to find love when you're lost it.
Hmm.
Except you look at yourself, and that's probably hard when you're in the middle of the forest. And so Berlin can be a facilitator for a moment, but only
Yeah.
for a moment. That's what I feel.
Man, how beautiful. I want to say so much more. Keep following along. Sebastian, I want to thank you for being here. And where can people go to find out more about you? Is there anything that you want to share with us about where to connect with you more?
Yes, actually, I can send it in the chat.
Yes, please.
I don't know if I can read it, but I will put it on a form. Let me know if you can read it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yep. Yep, there
yeah.
it is.
Just connect whatever you want. Go to my website. You find the link tree, and just contact me. Just talk to me
Yeah.
and talk to me,
And you're
or just go for my newsletter, which is due to be published in June. And you can follow up my progress. So maybe it's going to be July, but I'm sticking to June. I don't know if Rob is still here. It's coming
yeah.
up soon. So, but just feel free, contact me, see what I do. Looking very much forward.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And I want to let you all know that the ultimate question does have a home. It actually has a URL, theultimatequestion.live. So this conversation will be up there as well as all the others. You'll be able to see the actual envelopes and questions that are sent most of the time across the ocean, but this time not. And yeah, stay tuned there for updates. And if you'd like to join my newsletter, it's thereframenewsletter.com. So thank you all so much for being here. A huge thank you to Sebastian for your openness and your willingness to receive not only from me in the ultimate question, but also from Berlin. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me in this space. Looking
Yeah.
forward.
Yes, I'll see you soon.
The weekend it is.
Yes.
Cool. Have a good